Opening scene, the great hall of Castle Arlindor, warm torchlight illuminating the grandeur. Narrator: the great hall of Castle Arlindor shimmered in the warm glow of evening torchlight. Golden banners embroidered with the sigil of a soaring eagle hung from the vaulted ceilings, symbols of the kingdom's strength and freedom. Narrator King Therion of Arlindor sat at the head of the long stone table, his emerald eyes scanning the council chamber. "Drevik," he said, his voice firm, "you've been unusually silent today. Do you not have counsel for me?" Narrator: Minister Drevik, the king's most trusted advisor, looked up from his scroll. "I was merely listening, Your Grace. My advice remains unchanged. Arlindor must fortify its eastern borders. Malvene's ambitions grow bolder each day." Narrator Therion nodded, but said nothing. For weeks, rumors of Malvene's schemes had reached the court, and yet Therion could not shake the feeling that the threat lay closer than the borders. Narrator: Queen Lyria entered the hall, her auburn hair streaked with silver, braided into a crown atop her head. "You worry too much," she said softly. "Perhaps," Therion replied, "but I cannot ignore the unease in my heart." Narrator: that unease proved prophetic. The attack came without warning. In the dead of night, the first explosion shook the castle walls. Smoke filled the corridors as soldiers scrambled to defend their king. Narrator: Therion, dressed hastily in his battle armor, charged into the fray, but the enemy was already within the gates. Drevik's betrayal unfolded with ruthless precision. Narrator: "You traitor!" Therion roared, his sword pointed at Drevik's chest. Drevik stepped back, his face devoid of guilt. "This kingdom has grown weak under your rule, Therion. It was time for new leadership." Narrator: the duel was swift and brutal. Though Therion fought valiantly, Drevik's blade found its mark. The king fell to his knees, his crown clattering to the ground. Narrator: "Run, Kael!" Queen Lyria's voice was sharp, cutting through the chaos. "There's no time!" They emerged into the cold night air where Torren and Erin waited with a handful of loyal guards. "We ride for the Highlands," she said, her voice trembling with grief. Narrator: the village of Arlindor, nestled in the shadow of the Northern Highlands, was both a sanctuary and a prison for young Kael. Narrator: Kael stood on the edge of a rocky hill, a wooden training sword clutched in his hand. "Kael!" a voice called from behind. Torren jogged up the hill, panting. "Master Roran's waiting. You're late, Narrator." Together they descended to the training yard. "Prince Kael!" Roran's deep voice carried authority. "If you can't arrive on time, how do you expect to lead an army, Narrator?" The clash of steel rang through the clearing as Kael sparred with Roran. His determination was met with grudging approval. "Better," the old warrior said, "but you're still too predictable. Fight with your head, not just your sword, Narrator." As Kael caught his breath, he glanced at his mother. Queen Lyria's face was lined with worry, but there was pride in her eyes. Closing Narrator: this was just the beginning of Prince Kael's journey. A tale of betrayal and survival. Fade out.